Howdy folks, welcome to Happy Trails Hiking. Kay and I are in Cuyahoga Valley National Park at the Hale farm, and we're going to watch some artisans at work.
Doing some bench work, plow work on a miner's candle holder, like this one right here.
Oh, nice.
Before I get to the next step. File work is about as exciting to watch as watching paint dry. So, I've got another piece in there that's going to be a decorative leaf like that.
Nice.
At any rate, this candle holder right here comes out of 17 to 18 inches worth of 5/16 square stuff.
Welcome to our glass blowing house here at Hale Farm and Village. Today, in the year 2019, we have a lot of different machines that make most of our glass products for us. All the windows that you find in a hardware store, or the cups and bottles and jars in a craft store or home decor store, are just examples of some of those machine-made products. But back in the 1800s, we still needed windows for all the old Hale houses out there, and we needed cups and bottles and jars to drink from and store our goods in. So all that stuff had to be made by hand, by a glass blower just like me, using tools and equipment pretty similar to what we're using here today. So we'll go ahead and get started. Today we're getting ready to make a witch's ball ornament, a lot like this one, but with a transparent amber color instead of that yellow. And it's inspired by the historic ornament called the witch's ball. Back in the 1800s, people were still a little bit more superstitious. And they believed in things like witches and evil spirits, and also believed that by hanging up the witch's ball by their doorways, windows, or other entrances to their homes, they could actually keep those evil spirits out. And here at Hale Farm and Village, we still make a lot of these ornaments and try to keep some of that magic or meaning in them by giving them a symbolism based on the different colors that we use. So a yellow one like I have here would be a symbol of remembrance, a memory of someone or something that might have happened. A red one would be a symbol of friendship or love, or an amber or gold one like we'll be making would be a symbol of brotherhood or bond. So the first thing we'll have to do is open up the door to our furnace. It is nice and hot in there, about 2,300 degrees, and that is all fueled today by natural gas and an electric blower that works there. Back in the 1800s, they would have been using firewood for any kind of heat they need. Now that glass starts out as silica, which I actually have right over here in our glass jar. Silica is the main component of most sands around the world, and as people collected silica, or even just raw sand and tried melting it, they couldn't get glass. The only problem was the stuff melted at about 3,000 degrees. That's a little too hot, even for our 2,300 degree furnace here, but as people continued to experiment with glass and try adding different ingredients, they would eventually find two that helped the glass melt more easily. Most of what we work with today is still silica, but we also mix in a little bit of soda ash, soaked ashes from certain plants and trees that have burned, and also just a little bit of limestone. And that actually gets our glass to melt at about 1,000 to 2,000 degrees, like you'll see me use today. So our glass is already melted in the bottom half of the furnace, right down here where our cylinder shape is. There's a big ceramic pot called a crucible, and we can gather the glass on any preheated metal rods. Hot glass sticks to fuses in glass, but anything room temperature like our metal table, metal texture bowls we use for other projects, or my metal tools in a workbench actually cool what that glass looks like at about 2,000 degrees. It's a very thick liquid, kind of like honey on the end of a toothpick. Now that I have the glass, the first thing you might notice is that I'm constantly turning the rod, just to keep the glass from dripping. We do that not only to keep that glass from dripping, but also to keep the glass centered and flowing, just like how a potter has to keep their clay centered on the wheel. Now this actually won't be enough glass to make a witch's ball ornament, but it was all I could build up at once, and it's at least enough to get started. We're going to go ahead and just make a little bubble next, called the starter bubble. Roll the glass along our steel table here, called the arbor, just to push or wedge that glass to the very end of the rod, where I can then blow into it. And I just blew into the glass, tapping the end with my thumb, and all that air that I trapped inside expands because it's heated up by our glass. And then we get a little bubble called the starter bubble. No matter what you make from glass blowing, this is almost always how you're going to start out. One little bubble, and that's just enough glass to make a small, rounded ornament, like I got right over here. Something small, thin, and very lightweight. But to make anything larger, whether it's just a larger ornament, or something more complicated like a cup or a bottle, we actually need a little bit more glass. I'm going to let this glass cool down to about 1,000 degrees, and you'll see that it lose that bright, colorful glow that it has, and the glass will actually turn crystal clear. Then we can head right back to our furnace when the glass is completely solid and build up the whole extra layer on top. Then bring it back out of the furnace before it starts to melt or move. So while we're waiting for this glass to cool down, I'm actually going to cool down this metal rod a little bit using some water. Normally these metal tools don't actually get very hot. I can almost always grab about halfway up the metal before it even starts to feel uncomfortable. So now our glass has cooled quite a bit while we've been talking, and it is completely solid. Now right back to our furnace, build up our next layer of glass, and we will still have to make an ornament loop at the very end, but this will be just enough glass to make the body of the ornament. Right now we have that colder 1,000 degree glass on the inside, and our brand new 2,000 degree glass on the outside. So two very uneven layers of glass that aren't really moving as one solid piece of glass here. While I wait for the outside to cool and the inside to warm up, I'm just rolling the glass around in this wooden tool called a block. That's really important to do, and just make sure that this glass stays an even ball shape or egg shape, just because no matter what shape the glass is on the outside, that bubble inside wants to blow up into a ball shape. So if we have all sorts of bumps and uneven areas of the glass, that's going to show on our final product. Now that we've rounded this out, we can heat it up and get ready to start adding the color to it. As you all saw, all the glass in my furnace is crystal clear glass. It's just so hot to blow. So to color the glass, we actually press it into this stuff we have called frit, F-R-I-T. It's tiny little pieces of crushed up colored glass that we buy online today from factories and manufacturers. All the little pieces of glass stick and fuse to the surface, and then we can go ahead and melt this together in our furnace. Most studios work this way today so they can have just one furnace full of crystal clear glass to use as minis, and then they can buy all their extra colors that they want in the form of those coatings. Well, back in the 1800s, they of course couldn't just hop onto Amazon and buy whatever color of the rainbow they needed. So instead, they were actually making this color themselves by melting various metals or minerals into the glass. So we wouldn't actually have these little spots or speckles of color, but the entire bubble would be one solid color bubble. Now amber, that we're using, is actually one of the three most common colors that we've seen throughout history, as well as blue and green, just like the three cups I have at work. Blue glass is made by melting cobalt into the glass, and it's not a natural color. We had to add the cobalt ourselves, but we always had a lot of extra cobalt lying around, just because it's a byproduct of smelting copper or nickel ore. And we didn't have quite as many practical uses for cobalt as we did the copper or nickel, but eventually people learned that they could add it to their glass to get a bright, vivid blue color. Now the amber and the green is actually from the sand itself. Today we use a crystal clear glass made from pure silica. Back in the 1800s and even before that, we weren't just able to separate all of the silica from the glass. We didn't really have the knowledge or technology. So instead, people just melted raw sand. And sand is made up of all sorts of metals and minerals. If our sand had mostly iron in its composition, we'd get a green tint in the glass. And if we had a mixture of iron and different sulfates, we would end up getting an amber-brown color instead. Now you might notice those three colors look a little familiar, and that is because they're also the colors that industry glass uses. Most beer bottles and wine bottles come in amber, green, blue, or clear, and even windows and mirrors have a faint greenish tint to them. It's because there's a tiny bit of iron in the sand they melt in their glass. Now if you look around at older glass, maybe in an antique store or a vintage shop, and you look at the older amber-colored bottles, and jars, and other kinds of cups that they would make, they would look a little bit more like this, all one solid, even color, and definitely a lot darker. This is actually made from one of the Hale Ale root beer bottles that we have here at the gift shop. I drank that, melted it, and then blew it into a bottle. But that's the same color as the older glass. So now I think we've melted our amber color pretty well here. We're going to heat this up just a tiny bit more and get ready to blow it to the glass to start making our art. I'm actually not going to blow it to it all the way quite yet, because we still need to think about how we're going to get this glass off of our pipe once we're done. So this glass is fused onto the steel. I can't just slide that off or pop it off once we're finished. Instead, we're going to have to break the glass. To do that without completely destroying our ornament, we're going to make one little weak spot called a jack. It's a very thin little weak spot, like a neckline, we can crack and break once we're all finished making our ornament. To make that, I'm going to be using the tool that's named after, the jacks, over at our workbench. And I'll also keep blowing into the glass with this hose around my neck, called the blow hose. Now, most glass blowing isn't actually done alone. I just happen to be the only glass blower here at Hale Village. Normally, there's the gaffer, just like me, who has the blowpipe in his or her hand, uses all the different tools and equipment, and is really in charge of any project. But there would also be one or two assistants or apprentices, people that could do things like blowing the pipe while I'm working here with the tools, or maybe getting other parts and decorations with the other metal rods. Since I'm here on my own, I'll be getting things like the ornament loop at the very end for myself, and I use this hose around my neck to blow into the glass while I use the tools, basically doing work to each one. Even today, this is pretty rare. Most glass blowers have at least one or two assistants to help them with their projects, and that way they always have an extra set of hands if they need them. So now we have our bubble here, nice round ball shape, but we still need those strings and strands of color inside of the glass. To do that, we're going to heat up just the very bottom where the color is, and then push inside of the glass with the metal hose. Just because we really don't want to heat up that clear glass here, the top half of the ornament or the jack. If we can heat up the entire thing and press it into the glass, we would actually flatten this down to a pancake pretty easily. But this way we at least keep more of a roll shape or a dome shape. It's a lot easier to blow back out to the ball. At the same time, the jack line is such a small thin connection, it'll heat up and start melting and moving much more easily. And once we push inside with these metal tools, we actually get the glass fused together inside of itself. So then we blow the glass back out, and it stretches the glass to form those tiny strands. Then we blow. And like that, you started to blow it out, but you can tell it's not forming a perfect ball shape anymore. prodded the glass, and now it's got something in the middle pulling against it while it stretches. So it's not really going to make that perfect ball shape on its own. Instead, we're going to have to guide it into a round shape using newspaper as a tool. It's exactly as it sounds, several sheets of newspaper folded up and kept wet. And that way, it'll actually just stay cool enough that it doesn't heat up and hurt my hand too much. At all, really. Sometimes if it's a little too dry, it starts to get hot really fast. Now that newspaper is very just damp. It's not really wet, but it's not completely dry either. And that small amount of water helps hold the char and ash to the surface of the newspaper, instead of letting it just flake off. That's really what's stopping that newspaper from just catching on fire in my hand. It's already poured newspaper, it can't burn again. So it just sits there and protects the paper for me. I've been using that same piece of newspaper for about 2 weeks now, and it'll probably last through at least part of next week. But some of the newspapers I've used lasted me as long as 3 or 4 weeks before it's time to throw them out and start anew. Just because of that layer of char and ash, and just a little bit of water being used to help absorb the heat. So now we've made a round ball shape for our ornament, and we're about done. All that's left to do is break this glass off the metal blowpipe and out of the ornament. Before I do that, I just want to flash the glass a few times with little 3 to 5 second reheats to make sure our glass doesn't get too hot or too cold. If the glass gets too hot, around 1500 degrees, it's going to start to melt and move pretty noticeably. And I'm happy with our ornament just the way it is. But if the glass gets too cold, around 1000 degrees, it turns completely solid. And it will actually start to crack and pop and break because of those additives we add to the silicone. It makes the glass extremely heat sensitive. That's part of a downside of getting that lower temperature to get it to melt. Something like Pyrex is a little bit closer to pure silica, so it doesn't really melt or crack or break as it starts to heat up, but it also has an extremely high melting point, pretty close to that 3000 degrees. So we have to keep our glass above 1000 degrees until we're completely done with it. But we can also take advantage of that cracking effect by cooling the glass with metal. Anywhere we touch with the metal, like blades from our jacks, we actually cause little cracks to form at the surface. And with the light bulb, those cracks spread and it pops right off. Now we didn't just break the glass off the metal rod, we are kind of on a time limit, but it's still plenty of time to make our ornament. We're going to go ahead and gather a little bit of glass on the end of a smaller solid rod called a hunting rod. And just like the hot glass sticks to the hot metal, or the glass stuck to itself inside of the ornament, this brand new glass will also be able to stick to our ornament, covering up all the cracked, broken glass, and at the same time giving us this new molten material that we can stretch and pull into the ornament. And I just go inside with our tweezers and make sure there's enough room for a wire or ribbon. But like that, we've made our ornament. So I'll bring that around to show everybody one more time here, and it does look pretty cool, but it's bringing it around on these little metal tongs. And as this glass sits out here in the open air, it is pretty quickly cooling under 1000 degrees. Once it gets under 1000 degrees, it could start to crack or pop or break. So before that happens, we want to finish up our project by putting it away into the kiln. The kiln is like a big, heavy-duty oven. It stores everything and anything that I make at about 1000 degrees throughout the day.
That would be good.
So this is the pottery. I'm just finishing up some bowls that I made the last couple days. When I say finish, after I make stuff, I let it sit out on my shelf. I let it sit out overnight, and I'm waiting for it to dry out a little bit more. When I cut it off the wheel, it's very, very wet, very sloppy. I let it dry out, waiting for it to become what's called leather hard. So still wet, but dry enough that it can hold its shape. That's where this bowl is. Let's see. This bowl is still a little bit wetter than what I like, but if you see the bottom, it's got that jagged edge on it. So that's what happens to everything when I cut it off the wheel head. You got to get rid of that jagged edge. So I flip it over, trim off all that extra clay. You see where it bumps out a little bit? Just make it nice and rounded over. Put my stamps onto it. What I'm about to do with this one, put my blue band onto it. Then I'll put a liner on the inside. That's a slip, not a glaze. And I just let it sit out to dry out the rest of the way until it turns white. And that's called bone dry. And bone dry is when it's ready to go into my bottle kiln over there. Another name for a kiln is an oven. So I bake my clay up to 2,300 degrees. That's when it becomes vitrified, so no longer porous. At that temperature, I throw salt into the kiln, table salt, same exact stuff we cook with. And it's so hot that salt just poofs into a cloud, flies around, lands and everything, combines with all of the clay, and turns my fragile bone dry into, oh, I'm out of my examples, turns it into a solid glass. Gives it this, this gloss and what's called an orange peel texture, specific only to salt glazing. So now a mug you can drink out of, or a storage container, water can't get in to ruin whatever you're trying to keep safe on the inside.
Cool.
And just the salt glazing process allows me more time to focus on production. I don't have to pick up every piece multiple times to glaze something onto it. I just make it, let it dry out, put it in the kiln, it all gets finished in the kiln.
Own bricks and lived in a cabin with 7 children and his wife until they finished this house and moved in 1825. But today we use it to interpret textiles, and in here we spin. So we spin all of our own wool. We have Tunis sheep here, they're from Tunisia. We shear them once a year, and this is the yield from one sheep, so they give us quite a bit of wool. After we wash it, it looks like this. So much cleaner, but it's still not really ready to spin. You can see it's still kind of matted and knotted in places. So that is where carding comes in. So this is basically just combing the wool. There's microscopic fibers on here that make it really easy to spin. It grabs onto each other. But the more detangled this is and the more the fibers are lined up, the better that's going to work. So this is a job that children could help out with.
I would say it's a busy work kind of job.
Yes, exactly. And it takes a lot of arm strength and a lot of time. So hopefully you have lots of kids to help you out. And then you can just take it off kind of like that. And then come over to your spinning wheel. So girls will learn how to spin around the age of 9 years old. And start helping out family doing that. And then it takes about 1 hour to spin the wool for half of a mitten, so that's about 80 yards. So the whole set is going to take about 4 hours. I'm going a little too fast, you can see the starting to kink up there. So I'm still learning, but that all depends on what kind of, how you spin is going to depend on what kind of wool you end up, or yarn you end up getting.
Dahlias. And I boiled both plants, both flowers, I boiled for an hour to make the dye. And then you wonder what color you're going to get, because on natural dyes, it's a science experiment. So this was the marigolds, and then this was the dahlia flowers. Then on the blanket rack here, the drying rack, you can see lots of yarn dyed with natural dyes, and that's going to be a blanket someday. The spinners spun this spring over 2,000 yards of wool from our sheep. Then I had to wait for the black walnuts to fall from the trees before I could make that brown dye. And the nut inside, the early settlers would have used for food, but this outer shell boiled in water gives a nice rich brown dye. So I've dyed the black walnut dyed yarn, and then this one, the yellow, was with onion skins, the papery outer shell, just like the onions you use for cooking. And this was a root of a plant called madder. It was originally from Europe, brought here and used for orange and corals. The roots themselves even look orange. The plant itself isn't much. It's sprawling and it's prickly, but underneath is where the good stuff is. So those are the colors for my blanket. Next year we'll thread the loom and weave the blanket. It will actually be placed on display in this house once it's done.
The artisans we got to see at Hale Farm were very talented. And as you can see, there's so much to see, and you really do take a step back in time. Until next time, this is Kay and Matt from Happy Trails Hiking. Thanks so much for watching.